For all the amazing places you can go in the countries on this list, there are also places you'd be best to veer as far away from as possible. This is of course the case for every country. There are good areas and bad areas, but these are said to be some of the most particularly dangerous. I'm your host James, and these are the top 10 terrifying neighborhoods around the world too scary to live in. And we're starting things off with Tepito in Mexico City. Tepito, located in Mexico City, is known for its high levels of crime and danger. It is considered one of the most notorious neighborhoods in the city. It's infamous for its illicit activities, organized crime, and has a reputation for violence and lawlessness. The area has a high presence of criminal gangs involved in various illegal enterprises like the sale of counterfeit goods and stolen merchandise, but that's just what's on the surface. If you know where to go here, you can find a lot worse. The narrow streets of Tepito are often patrolled by gangs, and sure, police patrol the area, but they have a hard time maintaining any control. The criminal elements in this area are deeply entrenched. Poverty and unemployment are very high, and incidents of violence, including shootouts and clashes between rival gangs, are not uncommon. Going here as a tourist, you need to exercise extreme caution and avoid wandering into unfamiliar areas, especially after dark. If you are enjoying our channel so far, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free, you got nothing to lose, and we got awesome content coming at you every single day. Number 9. Mara Salvatrucha in El Salvador. Mara Salvatrucha, commonly known as MS-13, originated in Los Angeles. MS-13 has become one of the most notorious and dangerous gangs in the entire world, with a strong presence in San Salvador, El Salvador. The gang has expanded its influence throughout Central America and beyond, engaging in various criminal activities. In San Salvador, MS-13 is deeply entrenched in impoverished neighborhoods, contributing to high levels of violence and crime. The gang's presence has led to an atmosphere of fear and insecurity, with residents facing the constant threat of extortion and intimidation. San Salvador, the capital city of El Salvador, has struggled with gang-related violence for years, and MS-13 is a major contributor to the city's crime rates. The gang's involvement in territorial disputes and clashes with rival gangs often results in violent confrontations. Law enforcement in El Salvador has intensified efforts to combat gang-related crime, but the influence of MS-13 continues to be a huge challenge. The social and economic conditions in El Salvador only make the problem worse, with poverty and lack of opportunities making for a lot of young men who become perfect for gang recruitment. Next on the list is Ciudad, Juarez, Mexico. This area has long been associated with high levels of violence, especially during the peak of narcotics-related conflicts in the mid-2000s. The city became known as one of the most dangerous places in Mexico because of intense battles between rival cartels vying for control over trafficking routes. Homicide rates surged during this period, making Juarez one of the focal points of Mexico's struggle against organized crime. It continues to face challenges related to organized crime and corruption. The city's proximity to the US border also makes it a strategic location for smuggling illegal substances. Despite initiatives to enhance security and economic development, socioeconomic issues still continue, and this area has witnessed a decline in violence compared to its peak years, but occasional spikes in criminal activities still happen. Street-level crime like robbery and extortion is still a major concern, affecting both residents and businesses. In at number 7 is Kingston, Jamaica. Kingston in Jamaica stands out as one of the world's riskiest cities, ranking 19th for violence in 2018. The city's reputation is linked to rampant gang conflicts fueled by the Jamaica police force's understaffing and resource limitations, resulting in a crime rate 3 times higher than the regional average. Trenchtown, a neighborhood in Kingston, has become a hotspot for gang activity, prompting a curfew in January of 2021 following a series of shootings. Despite this curfew though, the violence persisted, with 2 more fatal drive-by shootings in June of that year alone. The conditions in Trenchtown are so extreme that the US Embassy actually prohibits its staff from venturing into the area. Recent reports from the Kingston Western Police Division indicate an 11% surge in violent deaths and a 25% increase in killings attributed to ongoing clashes between the Sox and the Brooklyn gangs. Trenchtown residents voice grievances about law enforcement and security forces seemingly turning a blind eye to criminal activities, creating an environment where gangs operate with relative impunity. Next up, we have Middle East, Baltimore. Baltimore, Maryland is an American city that has become known for its association with danger and dysfunction. You may recognize this area if you've ever seen The Wire. The Middle East neighborhood, renamed the East Baltimore Development Initiative in 2002, is still known by its original name to locals. The area has been touted as, apparently, the most drastic urban development initiative in recent American history, but crime continues to be a huge problem in the neighborhood. The area has a violent crime rate that is a staggering 858% higher than the national average. While there has been a 3% year-on-year reduction in crime, residents still face a 1 in 10 chance of falling victim to criminal activities. Household incomes and house prices are major factors, and graduation rates that lag significantly behind the Maryland average. Number 5, Cape Flats, South Africa. Cape Flats is a troubled neighborhood in Cape Town, South Africa, which struggles with rampant gang violence. This area comprises densely packed townships filled with notorious gangs like the Americans, Hard Livings, Fancy Boys, and Dixie Boys. The area is dangerous enough that armed troops keep tabs on the situation with regular patrols. The University of Cape Town's Guy Lamb points out the chaos escalated significantly when former cop Chris Prince Lou supplied around 2,500 firearms to these groups. The consequences have been pretty bad, with a decade-long spree of bloodshed showing no signs of letting up. In March of 2021, violence claimed the lives of 14 people in Cape Flats and left another 10 seriously injured. A few months later, a distressing report documented 12 tragic deaths in just a few days. The violence is fueled by an estimated 100,000 individuals operating in approximately 130 gangs, locked in constant battles for money, territory, and influence. Next up on our list is Fiskhorn, Detroit, or as it's sometimes referred to, Fiskhorn. Fiskhorn, Detroit is not exactly a walk in the park. Detroit police refer to it as the most dangerous neighborhood in Detroit, which is saying a lot. For starters, its crime rate is 123% higher than the Detroit average and 463% higher than the United States average. And if we want to zoom out even further, the violent crime rate in this neighborhood is a whopping 1,409% greater than the national average. That should give you a good idea of what to expect venturing into an area like this. Things really got bad in Detroit when it filed for bankruptcy in 2013. And the population has started to decline ever since as crime started getting worse and worse. In Fiskhorn, 1 in 8 people will be the victim of a crime according to data collected in 2019. And at number 3, we have Rochina in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This is the largest favela, not just in the city, but in all of Brazil. It's incredibly dense, with 200,000 people or more living there. And of course, high density combined with poverty is a breeding ground for criminal activity. At one time, it was a shanty town with barely any basic amenities, but it eventually developed into what it is now, an urbanized slum. There are businesses there now, cable TV, at one point there was even a McDonald's, but the area is still said to be one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. The favela is controlled by Amigos dos Amigos, an organized crime syndicate, and a lot of the violence that goes on in this area is turf wars between them and other criminal organizations. Next on the list, Scampia in Naples, Italy. This place is a hotspot for the sale of illicit substances. The Camorra mobsters, who are the oldest mob group in Italy, rule over the criminal underworld in Naples, and apparently in this neighborhood especially, young men form groups often referred to as baby gangs, committing particularly heinous acts of violence in order to gain the attention of the senior mobsters. The unemployment rate is very high in this area, and that combined with the neighborhood's high density and overall poverty is just not a good mix. The area is currently being reworked. A lot of the apartments are being demolished. with residents moving into other apartments in areas nearby. The hope is that this may help curb the concentration of the crime, but that remains to be seen. But finally, we have Lunik IX in Slovakia. Lunik IX is a neighborhood with high crime rates and social challenges, to put it lightly. It's become known for its dilapidated buildings, limited infrastructure, and high unemployment rates. Honestly, it looks more like a war zone than a neighborhood. The area primarily consists of block-style housing, with many buildings falling into disrepair. Overcrowding is a common issue, poverty is widespread, with a significant portion of the population facing economic hardship. It's an environment that fosters crime. Gang activity is very prevalent in this area, and the lack of effective policing and community services only adds to the issue. Abandoned buildings and poorly lit areas provide cover for illicit activities. The educational system in Lunik IX is also not great. Many of the young people who make up most of the area, by the way, a very high percentage, experience barriers to proper education. Limited access to resources and a challenging home environment create this cycle of academic underachievement, and social services struggle to meet the demands of the community. But with that said, comment shout out time. I thought I'd lighten the mood a little here. This comment was from my top 10 scary sinkholes caught on camera video. My favorite comment goes to West Gunton 238. James says he'll run away from a sinkhole, but human curiosity, or not believing it's actually happening, will have him hanging around, watching and probably filming the event. Which is likely true. I think I get a little full of myself sometimes watching stuff like this and be like, come on, I wouldn't be standing around. I'm smart. I'm the only smart man. The truth is my curiosity would likely get the better of me as well. I'm only human. With all that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.